It's Astrology with May, and I am here with one of my absolute favorite people, Baba Sharon. That's the
Hello,
best way to call
everybody.
her. Yeah. And she is such a big deal for me because she has taught me so much. Every time I've had the weirdest possible question about spirituality, about pretty much how does astrology relate to the rest of all spirituality, she has been the one. And so to explain it to me, or at least like point me in the right direction of where to go or what's interesting. And today's topic is actually kind of healing the spirit, which I think is a really important thing. And we're going to talk about astrology. We're going to talk about Gnostic knowledge. What were some of the other topics? Because they all kind of actually go together, right?
Well, this is the overarching, of spirituality, where we are now. Okay. Knowledge of what our ancestors in the past, from the beginnings of this planet, as much as we can decipher from that, and all the streams from different cultures and ancient writings, and where we're going, which I think is the most important thing. I want to say hi there, shalom. That is Hadassah. It's good to see you here, Hadassah. And please, everybody, just go ahead into the chat. We're interested also in your opinions. If you have questions, and that would be great. If you have questions, what is our opinions about it, or insights about it, and our experience about it.
Yeah.
So to mention what May is saying, okay, how does this all tie in together? I I believe there's a couple, it's not a one simple answer, obviously, but I'd like to talk to the audience who have a sense that they've never felt being really comfortable here. Like they feel that they are an alien in an alien place. Okay. Some of us are traumatized that we're even here. I could say that as a little kid, like, wait a minute, something is wrong. I'm not supposed to be here. But eventually, um, through life's path, much of it too includes the challenges
Mhm.
and the blockages and the fears and all of that. And somehow you get past it. You look back and say, wow, that was really a blessing because I didn't know I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know I didn't know. And so I want to start off by saying that the basis of this universe, in whichever way you describe it, okay, in my experience has been, no matter what challenges we have gone through, and we have gone, I'm sure all of us have our novels of what that is, but at the end of the day, we are in a benevolent, loving universe and a creator, and there's something in us that absolutely knows that. And so we have to question, why is that not happening here right now? There's a part of us that senses that something is bigger and grander, more balanced, not war, not the gnashing of teeth. It's in our energetic field that we have a cosmic memory that it just won't go away. It's just there in the background. And I believe, May, okay, this is where astrology helps, okay, because I think we've come to the conclusion, if you're listening to this stream, this live cast, that we are beyond this physical three-dimensional world. I would say that anybody who's interacting here at the moment is aware that way more than just the five senses of a physical earth suit that we're currently wearing at the moment, but we're not the earth suit. And I always go by what Jesus Christ said, we're in the world, but not of it. Okay, and that has to get us thinking. That's where the gnosis part goes in. And I feel that the gnosis is the knowing, because I've always said ignorant is not bliss. So this is why we're doing this live cast. This is why we're interacting with each other. This is where we all together as a collective is triggering one another to remember our cosmic memory, the true source of who we are, and so we can start to figure out. And I want to just say astrology is one of the most wonderful tools, okay, because we are in this energetic that were impacted by the celestial bodies. I mean, the moon impacts the tides, right? So we can't say, okay, maybe one day when he ascend into the 12th dimension, we may not need the astrology or the celestial bodies, but for the moment, it is a good guiding post for us to utilize in our journey.
Let's break it down a little bit because we've got some people who are crazy advanced that are cosmic center people.
I know.
And we'll give shout outs to all of you guys in a little bit. Thank you guys for commenting. But then we've got some folks that chanced upon this and they don't even know what Gnosis is, which is really common because that word looks like agnostic half the time. And so people
Yes,
think it's that.
yes.
That's not what it is at all. It's almost upsetting. So we should just go through the basics for the folks that might be chancing on this. What exactly is Gnosis?
Okay, okay. So, what I want to say, first of all, if I may, well, first of all, gnosis means knowledge, and it's the inner knowledge. So, let me give you an example. I know everybody that's here, okay, at the moment, whether you went to school to study a subject or somebody told you something, but you come across something and you just know. You just know. You're not sure how you know, but you know. Okay. You know. Okay. It's just that thing in you, like, no, I really feel this is the way it should be. You could call that intuition, but that's intuition that is anchored in a sense that you know this and you're correct about this. You don't care what anybody else says, you know it. That is gnosis. Gnosis is knowing within yourself a truth, okay, that is cannot be shaken. So the Gnostics, who are the Gnostics? And it was so interesting because I kind of did a deep dive into this on Sunday, the Sunday service, which, by the way, you'll be able to see it on a YouTube channel. I was talking about the Cathars. Okay, so what's very interesting is this, and I want to kind of tie this in. First of all, the Gnostics were the not only the early Christians. We're talking like 100 years after, the resurrection of Jesus the Christ, but also too from the Hebrew tradition. Okay, so it's not just a Christian tradition; it's also a Hebrew tradition. So this is around the very early time that you say that Jesus the Christ was walking the earth, and then maybe 100 years, 200 years after his death, up to 300 years, Christianity was still being defined. Okay, this is what's going on. And you could go ahead. I always encourage everybody to do their own research. This is now accessible to us because we are now in the age of Aquarius. Okay, and Aquarius says all things hidden will be revealed once again. Okay, so that's how they found the Hagamadi. Okay, those ancient manuscripts that somebody hid in a jar, praying, okay, that they will stay until humanity might be ready to get this information again. And that's not just the Hagamadi. You have the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm sure there's going to be more that's going to come up. I'm pretty sure it's going to be more. But to get back to the idea of the Gnostics, okay, there were a couple of different things going on. So let's just say first you had the Orthodoxy, okay? The Orthodoxy was who at the time? That was Constantine. He was the emperor, right? And so this was in Rome. And he's like, okay, there's a really big Jesus movement thing going over here. Okay. And I was asked this question: do you think somebody who's in power is just going to give up their power and say, man, that's okay? All right. So, and we're not going to go all the way back to the beginning as to why things are the way they are. That's a whole nother topic. We're not going to go there at the moment. But you could just say that human behavior, the lower frequency of it is what? Power, greed, okay, what they call the seven deadly sins. I think there's something out there called that. All right, so it's that. And then there's this spark part. So what the Gnostics was saying, you know what? The kingdom of God is within us. And in the Gospel of Thomas, which was knocked out, by the way, was not put into the canonical Bible, okay, not included in that, says that the Gospel of Thomas says, Jesus says, the kingdom of God is within you. Okay, so that's number one. Versus the orthodoxy that says, we know what's going on. You come through us, okay, to get the information. And of course, in those days, the Roman Catholic had the indulgences, and, you had to pay a tithe, and, hopefully you'll get into heaven, but if not, you'll get into purgatory, and maybe at some point into heaven. So there was that whole thing. The idea was, okay, for you to get to God, you had to go through a hierarchy, a pope, a bishop, a priest. Okay, now back in those days, literacy isn't like it was today, and that was the Protestant Reformation. What that was all about, what Martin Luther was saying, why can't we read this ourselves? Okay, that's what they were coming and saying. Let us kind of figure this out. Long story short, the orthodoxy is saying, we know, St. Peter, and he's the bishop and the apostle, and we have to go through him and all of his successors, which is the Pope. Okay. And we are the ruling class. And if you look at the history of the world, it's always been what? The priest kings that have held power. And don't you think for a second they're going to just give that up. But they're going to design a plan as to how they stay in the game. Now, the Gnostics, and I mean, great intellectuals, Valentinus, Mani, there's so many great minds were saying, wait a minute, okay, this God that Jesus is talking of, and not just Jesus, the Buddha, Zoroaster, and others, benevolent God, a loving God, a caring God, that's a really cool God. But what's this other God that wants to smite everybody, right? Like, gonna knock you down. And so they started to think that, wait a minute, maybe that is not the God, the source God. And maybe, and in our history, Elohim is plural. A lot of people are shocked to hear, like, I was in the 4th grade when I realized Elohim was plural. I said, you mean there's more than one? So let's just say there's a lot more that's involved. So the Gnostics were saying, basically, I don't have to go through anyone. I can access this knowledge directly. And I'm not so sure if you guys got this right. I'm not so sure because there was many different interpretations at the time. But the ones in power, you have to figure, well, why was there, the Great Inquisition? And if anybody didn't think the way you were supposed to think, you were wiped out like the Cathars. So the Gnostics are saying we can seek knowledge on our own. We can go direct to the divine. We can have that direct communication and move from there. So that is the basic difference.
Okay, so that is the history. And I think that is wonderful for people to understand why people don't know about Gnosticism.
Right.
Let's talk about the cool stuffs about what Gnosticism can be if we're able to fully embrace it in 2020.
Oh,
yeah.
It's called freedom.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff because the knowledge.
There is. And let me say this. Now, it's not a thing. I also want to say that it's a real experience.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a cool thing.
It's a real experience. So it's not just a reading.
No.
I'll share my experience of it then. Okay. And there's other people who've had it too. So Gnosis is when I personally, and this is, of course, all of us in our path, and we're doing our studying, we're going through different things, okay? We're learning, and there's nothing that you do or try to learn, understand, that's a waste. Never. Everything is important. So I got to a point, I have studied Theosophy, I've studied the Keys of Enoch, huge bodies of work. But then with new technology, they now have all of the Gnostic Gospels, the ones that were not put in the St. James Bible, including the Keys, the Enoch, which was in Ethiopia. What about that? What about Enoch? He was left out. So it was all this pick and choose. Who's picking and choosing? So I chose to go to all those books that were left out or hidden or tried to be destroyed, because I said there's something so important about it, why they want to get rid of it and why they don't want to us to know it. And I know that absolutely that power wants to maintain power. So that was my search. And now through YouTube University, I was able to listen to all of the Gnostic Gospels. I didn't have to read them all. And I would listen to them over and over again. I was going to sleep listening to them. And then I had this experience, which at first it was a little scary because I felt like I was pixelated, like my consciousness, my body was pixelated into like a trillion pieces. And I was like, out into the multiverse. I mean, it was a real experience. And I was trying to find my way back, like I'm trying to get grounded. And even as I was kind of what I felt floating, okay, was that I couldn't remember anybody's names at all, wiped out, like no names. And I said, oh my gosh, I got really concerned. And it was a friend of mine that said, maybe because of this experiencing, your brain is trying to do whatever it's doing, recalibrating, realigning. It has to shut down one part of your brain to put the all energy into that. And that gave me a little relief. I said, that could be true. Well, it was true because when after that experience, which took about, I'm going to say about 3 days. It took about 3 days, but I had to rest for about 7 days. And after that, when I came back fully in my body, I could remember people's names again. I was a different person. I actually experienced seeing what we now call the matrix. I experienced seeing what the Sanskrit, what they call Maya, okay, what in scientific terms now they may be calling a simulation. Okay, I was able to have an understanding of that, and I was able to see how we are these magnificent spiritual beings of light, of a spark of the bright that's way beyond that, way beyond this matrix. And there is knowledge that talks about we, like the Christ and other avatars of light, will be the redeemer for others, to lead the way for others to go and to get out of what I call this energetic simulation, or maybe you may want to call it an energetic cage. And we do that by rising our vibration, that walking that path of light and love, and all that is what's allowing us to dismantle, okay, miscreations, distortions, and other things in this reality bite. We are more aligning with our true selves, which is on a very high, beautiful frequency. Some people call it the higher self.
Let's talk about, a couple of different things that always float around near Gnosis, and I'd love it for you to just nail these things in a little bit. So let's talk about the Akashic Records and
Mhm.
Gnosis. Let's talk about reincarnation and Gnosis.
Okay. Okay. So there is no one simple way. I just want to say that. So maybe in the highest form, we said, "Hey, let's go ahead and have this experience." Okay, that could very well be the case. All right, for soul growth, that and most certainly coming into this world, there are lessons. You do grow. My concern is when you keep on hitting the glass ceiling and you can't get out the wheel of reincarnation. That's the issue I have.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's just say all along, okay, you are coming in, and yes, they took out, and at least the Catholicism, reincarnation was a regular deal, and then they've been manipulating with personal agendas, with all of this stuff, which is why no matter what you read, you have to read with discernment always, and have that gnosis, have your own inner knowing. But yes, the wheel, what the Buddhists call the wheel of
Yeah.
reincarnation. Okay, you have many different lifetimes, and many of us, I have recollections of at least lifetimes I've been a part of. I had one where I know I was in the Viking era, and because I saw the terracotta, or not the terracotta army of China, but I remember seeing clear as day a military person riding a horse, and they had that kind of armor, which was like little squares. Okay. And I saw clearly, and I'm like, what is the Vikings and the this Asian military? And it turns out that they did find through archaeological digging. This is before they found the terracotta army, by the way, that there was interaction, okay, between the Mongolians and the Scandinavians. That there was that cross thing. So that was interesting. So to know that, which of course, when you go to school, they just give you the very basics of the Vikings and somebody with some horns and a ship, and that's it. So it was way more than that. And so these are the things that these little glimpses, these little glitches, if you will, of this little energetic reality bite we're in, has to ignite that there's something else going on. What about your dreams? What's with that? What about having premonitions? What's with that? Okay. And so again, this is where before gnosis happens, May, we become seekers of truth.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. We want to know the truth. And this does say the truth shall set you free. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So that part of seeking the truth is going to get you to a point with your study, with your prayers, with your meditations, to a level as you're rising that boom, light bulb, light bulb. So I, and there are others, clearly 100%, I'm not even going to say the way believe, no, we're out in this lifetime. I absolutely know that. Okay. And it's not just, hey, we're leaving. See ya. We're bringing everybody else with us. And that's why we're all here. And the age of Aquarius with this technology is a positive thing. Like anything else, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can use it and misuse it. But for using it in its highest purpose, this is so exciting. We're reaching people that perhaps they're the only awakening person in their entire village, that everybody looks at them as the crazy one. And I'm sure we've all been there. We've all been there. Like, what's wrong with you? How come you're not part of the herd? And this knowingness, which is the gnosis, is the part of you that's going to push you, May, to be your authentic self. It's going to make you be your authentic self, because you will not rest well if you are not expressing the truth of who you are as this precious creation, okay, decided to come in with your memory wiped, got to figure all of this out. Because for those of us that see ourselves as light workers, see ourselves as wanderers, as star seeds, that I feel like I don't remember, but I think it's something important to do, or this place seems so strange, and what can I do to make it better? And that is the road that we're on for us to wake up. And that is the gnosis. Now, Akashic Record, what's
Yeah,
that?
let's get to Akashic Records. Emerald Tablets. Great question from Hadassah. She's got a couple of great questions we're definitely going to get to. If you have questions, make sure to stick them in the comment bar. We definitely
Yes, we will get to that.
practice
Absolutely.
the interactive tool here. Okay. Akashic Records and Emerald Tablets.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're really going to deep dive in all of
As
this.
relates to Gnosis.
Okay. Right. So all of that is part of the journey. So yeah, there is an Akashic record. Now, I'm going to tell you something really wild. And I have shared this before, but it's a recent thing that happened. So I'm going to sort of align it with this. Okay. So when I was very, very young, I don't know, maybe a teenager, I came across the knowledge that there is a place in India, okay, that there is like what they call a palm leaf, but it's a reading about a particular soul that's going to be on the planet or is on the planet. And I was like, what? And that these Maharishis, these very, very high radiant beings, okay, they wrote these. I'm like, wow. And I always said, I wonder if there's one for me. Okay. And I always thought about that. But of course, to go and get that reading, you'd have to go to India. So I wasn't going. Anyway, years later, because of technology, you can now do this in the comfort at your home. And when somebody told me that, I said, I'm going to do this. So I went through the procedure. It's an organization. It's the NADI, NAADI readings. It's done through Dr. Q. It is the real deal. And they just set up the technology where you just give a thumbprint, really, and your date of birth. That's it. And then they look to see if they can find your leaf, okay, for your soul here in 2025.
Got
I
it.
did. Months later, they come back and they said, no, not everyone, but if you think you have it, you probably do. um, they said, "Hey, we found it. We think we found it. We think it's in one of these two bundles." Now, these bundles and these leaves are thousands of years old. This is an ancient Tamil, okay, ancient language. The Maharishis from thousand years. And this is all tying into Akashic records. So hold on. So I said, yes, of course. If you think you found it, I want it. So it's done very well. We had a Zoom. It was like 2:30 in the morning because it's in India. So I had to be up in the morning for the guru to be there. They had a translator. They had the person here in America that was doing just very well. They went through a whole process where you either say yes or no. That's it. They have to figure out your name, your mother's name, your father's name, okay, and other details about you. So basically, you may start off saying yes, yes, no, 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 yes, no, until they figured out the ancient Tamil. They put in letters. Is this the first letter, the last letter, whatever questions they ask? And when you say yes, 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 and they got my mother's name. My mother's name is Winifred. That's not a regular name. They said Winfred. Close enough. Close enough. Yes, yes, yes. And they found it. And you see the ancient, they
Where
give
is
you
that
the,
in India for folks that might be able, big travelers in this group?
this is amazing. And
Is
you
it
say, well, how does Maharishi, which I know the name of my Maharishi that put this down, Avastar, Maharishi Avastar. And he was living maybe thousands and thousands. I'm not sure on the planet, but he's not been around recently. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is ancient stuff, but yet identify me. And he was accurate.
Wow.
Everything that was said was accurate. Part of what it said is that you have reached dosha. You're leaving in this lifetime. I said, I knew it. How
Wow, look at this. We
was
got
that?
so much synchronicity.
Oh, really?
You're met.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that your grandmother's name is Winifred?
Have
Isn't
you
that
met
something?
Natasha before? Did she come through the center?
Yes, I know her. I spoke to her.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay, so you guys
yes.
are soul sisters, is what we just learned
Yes, yes,
tonight.
she was doing
That's
and we
amazing.
just met and we have so much in common. We're just talking all the time.
That's
And
amazing.
she is a great light. She has knowledge. She probably has access to the Akashic
Wow,
records.
look at that.
But the whole idea, somebody would say, well, how is that possible? Well, this Maharishi, okay, if you believe that the past, the present, and the future, because we're into this illusion of a linear time, right? But the reality is everything is all at once. And if everything is all at once, then there is this depository, okay, of information that can be accessed by. And so the Maharishi, looking at a soul perhaps, saying, hey, this soul experience and where they're going, if past, present, and futures combined into one, here is the essence of this soul in this particular point. And that has to do with Akashic records. So the Akashic records, and there are many other people that can do it. A lot of the extraterrestrials, you say, well, how do they know all about me? Other groups too, like say, we know who you are. Okay, I've had that come in a dream. We
Yeah.
know who you are. Yeah, because all of us, okay, energetically has the story of who we are, past, present, future. Sometimes they have movies now where you see your future self, or Back to the Future, you go back in time. And that the idea of time travel, is that where time is no longer, it's not a straight, a static thing. And the Akashic Records is a detail, you could say, is the cosmic scribe
Yeah.
that has everything of every soul, of every collective, of all the history of all time. And
Yeah.
there are people who can access that.
Yeah, the weird thing is
Everybody
I've
can
actually
access.
had a few meditations where I think I saw the Akashic records.
Yes,
It's really weird.
yes, because it exists. It's on a plane that exists.
It's really strange because the one time I saw it, I kept seeing it with a deity next to it.
Uh huh.
Turns out it was actually a Hin, like when I found out, and it was like I was getting a name while I was seeing it. I didn't realize it until I started to make friends with folks that do the Hindu practice.
Right.
It's actually a
Right.
deity that does have access to the Akashic records. I was like,
Yes.
what? It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you, if
It
you,
looked a little different to me. It looked more like movies to me
yeah, well, yeah, and it can be, of course, in any way. I always, well, you can see my library behind me. I believe every light worker has
Oh,
a library.
yeah,
Now, maybe on your phone or your computer, but back in the day, it was these kind of books. I don't know any light workers that don't have a bunch of books. Okay, that's part of it. But the scribes. So listen to this now, and how powerful scribing, and if there's an Akashic record that's taking, um, imprinting everything that is happening in all creation,
yeah.
right? Something I saw today that was very relevant, and it made me think. It was very powerful. So, we want to talk about the Sumerian tablets. So, why do you have
Emerald
civilizations?
tablets?
The Sumerian tablets.
Okay.
Okay. And that's one of the most ancient, the Sumerians, one of the most ancient civilizations, if not one of the first civilizations. And that's where you have the Anunnaki and that whole group and pantheon of these demigods. But one of the things that it was describing, and it was a gentleman who was a great linguist, and he, I think before, the one that wrote the 10th planet, what's his name? Stitchin, but this is before Stitching. But he was a great intellect. And one of the things he said, that you have to think about it. Why do I have a library? Why do you have a library? Why every civilization has the need to write something down or to hold information that's coming from higher levels, that's being done. It's like an intrinsic archetype that automatic, and you've always had scribes, always have had scribes. Thoth was a great scribe. So was Enoch. Okay. How do we know about the emerald tablets? Somebody wrote that down. All right. So, with this information that came in today, something to think about. They talked about the power of language. And they talked about really the power was with the scribes, because the scribes were the ones that interpret a word, okay, at least in our reality, in this 3D dimension. And just like anything, as a word could have multiple meanings, but it can be what they were talking about, that these words were integrated, not like just utilitarian, put this block to the right, to the left, put a plank here, but they embedded prayers into it. Like each, like a pyramid, was each was specifically done to align with a higher library or a higher writing or a higher language. But this is of the ancient of days. And one of the things that they said is that language, okay, words create. It's embedded in a civilization. It's something that we need to think about. And part of that is who's writing and who's saying, who's that.
Yeah. Let's go back to and stick with some of the more intriguing aspects of Gnosticism that I think a lot of folks oftentimes don't understand. And you mentioned a few of these things. It's the idea that you do have access to this universal body of knowledge. Some people are really good at it and can read full lives, that sort of thing. But in general, there's just this body of knowledge that exists. And what I think is really interesting that makes it very obvious that there is a truth to this is oftentimes children, when they come back and they just have a natural inclination. And it's kind of fascinating, because I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful they are because of what the Gnostics are actually saying.
Right.
So like, when you see these kids on the internet, and it's not just a couple of kids, that they sit there and they're like expert drummers as a 3-year-old or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. They
let's
come
talk
in with
about
this
that in the
view. Yeah.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about that and how empowering that really can be
Yeah.
for for where we're
Well,
at right now.
actually, I want to talk about two things, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to talk about that. But you know what? On the internet, too, you see these kids
yeah,
that when they realize that you eat an animal, they're traumatized.
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen those. They're like, oh my God, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my gosh, and they're trying to save the little chicken and like, no, don't eat it. Where does that come from? Where
yeah,
does that come from? That's not a learned behavior. In fact, the environment is like, this is normal behavior. The little kid has said, no, it's not. What are you doing? Because that soul has had a different experience, perhaps less barbaric into this 3D density that we find ourselves in, because there are many different worlds out there. And in between our reincarnations, we travel all over the place. And many of us come from someplace else, or you could say energetic, where we spent maybe using time, or we have an imprint of that really strong, but we are now someplace else. And it takes a moment to kind of acclimate, but not to lose that. So I always look at that as these children, okay, that come in just mortified that we actually eat animals, right?
but you've had a message where you have to kind of, you can't,
What's that?
you've had some people are not vegan. That's all I'm
Oh, I know
saying.
that.
Like,
I'm not vegan. I'm
yeah,
not vegan. I eat meat, but
yeah,
it's I pray over it
I
like
do too.
halal.
I do too.
I
I
eat
am
meat.
so
Yeah,
thoughtful
I'm
about
not
that.
saying that, but for
Yeah,
some people, this can be okay, traumatizing little kids.
that's true. A lot of
Okay, yeah, but they're on the planet, and for our physical bodies, for it to operate and how it evolved, meat was part of it, vegetables, roots, stuff like that. So we have to somehow consume an energy product for
yeah,
this thing here to move.
yeah,
Okay, because we're in the body, so the body has certain needs. But that is not to say everybody has to do what's best for their body.
yeah,
Okay, but just saying how kids come in and observing the world, okay, and for some, this seems to be shocking because maybe they came from a world that we didn't have to do this
yeah,
energetically. They may be that little star seed that has come in and said, wow, wait a minute here. Where I come from, we don't even do this. What's this? Okay. But then you have like the geniuses, okay, and the children that come in. Don't you know how many times I hear, and it's true, that children are the parents to their parents? Children have to like help their parents open their parents' eyes, be the source of comfort where the roles have reversed. Have we not, many of us have come in and just have a knowledge that, you know, our parents didn't tell us, nor did the teachers. So, yes, to answer your question, we come with various talents. So there's a propensity if somebody knows music. Well, look at Tesla when he came. Tesla was a genius. Tesla said he was connected to some other higher intelligence and he could figure out what was going on, what they were saying, what they were exchanging. That was same thing as little children coming in and they're like, hey, I remember this. Why do people have a propensity to certain other things and others have a propensity to other things? I think that we come in with very basic our wiring is different. Our energies are, well, you're unique. We're part of a whole collective, but we're each individual sparks of the divine collective. So yes, I feel that all of us, May came in as May, I came in as me, everybody came in as them. Okay, whatever the propensity. Many of us came in with moving, part of our destiny was this spiritual thing, knowing we would probably be the outcast or the odd one out. Okay, or somebody came in and they lose, like they're blind, or they and they have some other side of them that just rises, that's beyond compare, because they lack in one thing but it's compensated by something else. Really, the human is so amazing, and this is what I hear all the time, May. I hear from a higher intelligence of light, what they say very clearly is that the humans upon the earth, upon the surface earth, okay, they do not know how powerful they are. Everybody else in the multiverse knows it. Why are all the ETs hanging out here? What's the big deal? Every place you go now, they've always been here, but now it's kind of pretty obvious. Okay, extraterrestrials, we are not the only species in town in this multiverse. And why all of the attraction around us? Because outside of the earth being this amazing, beautiful, diverse being, such diversity, amazing diversity, okay, that there's interest in that. We hold, I don't know how much DNA frequencies and combinations, endless. So we're like, wow. I remember reading a book by Norma Marciniak, Earth, the Living Library. And if you just look at a garden, if you look at a rose, how many variations of a rose? I mean, the diversity on this planet is immense. Okay. And God knows how much DNA we have of different sources. Okay. So there's a lot of interest in that. But the real interest is the Adam Kadmon, the divine human, because in many ways we are very unique to other species. Now, we have a humanity dispersed outside of the earth. There's humanity all over the place, different variations of humanity, like the Palladians, and there's others that look human like, a head, two arms, and 2 feet, and a torso, and maybe a little difference here and there, but that's the basic blueprint of a human. And in the highest level, we are connected in the highest aeon, in the highest aeon. So you could say that we are in a fallen situation or lower vibration, and we are encapsulated in the earth suit that has us sort of anchored here. But our consciousness and who we truly are is way beyond the gravitational pull of the planet. And maybe there was and is an energetic field around to kind of keep things the way they are, because there could be those that have an agenda and say, hey, we like it like this. We want to be in charge.
And that's a great point. Let's talk about how all of this Gnosticism, these journeys that we have, how does that relate to spiritual healing? Because there are some things that, there are many beings, and yet, and this is always been a weird thing that's been explained to me. And I feel like I finally get it, but I think it is not necessarily the easiest concept. There is just us, because we are one, but then there is our individual experience. And then there is the fact that as a result, we have both every single power to manifest something, but we also cannot make choices for other people. And it's such an interesting series of dichotomies.
Yes.
Relates to what it implies we're trying to do with the physical life that we're here, and how that rolls into things like forgiveness,
Correct.
all of that stuff. Let's take a little bit of time for sure to talk about that, because spiritual healing is such a big deal right now. I think a lot of folks ultimately, in their search for spiritual understanding, it's really about healing.
Yes.
People don't even know what it is they're healing, which is so interesting.
Right. Right. Well, and that's really important, May. I'm really glad you brought that up because one of the key things that we're all looking for is healing.
Yeah.
Healing. Um, and healing again, I guess what we got to wrap our mind around, the basics of this is first of all, you have to be aware, okay, that you are not just a physical being, period. That there's many layers as to who you are. Okay, so you're physical, mental, emotional, okay, and a whole lot of others. Because the first thing that has to happen to even wrap your mind around this, okay, is that we are interdimensional beings operating way beyond what this is. So if you got that concept, then you have to understand at the very minimum we're body, mind, and spirit. Body, mind, and spirit.
It's
It's
so interesting because a lot of people, it like just when you think you have this concept, stuff happens and you realize actually this concept is way more complex than you think.
it is.
It's really not about the body. And I think as you get older, you realize it's really not the body.
So
Yeah.
let's say, for example, and I had an example. I went to a beautiful lady who has since passed, my dear friend, and she was just an amazing massage therapist, but she was more than a massage therapist. But I just remember she took her hand and she just pushed her finger in my shoulder, and I burst out crying.
Yeah.
So the first thing was like, well, wait a minute. The emotions are trapped in our physical bodies?
Yeah. Is that weird?
And I,
Huge part of
okay,
sickness is just that.
okay. A lot of it is my body's feeling ill or this thing keeps on happening and turns out it's an emotional thing with a conscious or unconscious, usually unconscious.
Yeah.
Then you have the mental, the thoughts. And what I keep on saying, we were talking before, how people, okay, are so powerful, but they don't know it. So if they say, you know what, I believe that that's going to happen, it will.
Yeah.
I
Really
believe it
powerful.
won't happen, it won't.
Yeah.
That's how powerful we are. So when you begin to say, holy moly, my thoughts, thoughts are things,
Yeah.
thoughts are things. I better watch what I'm thinking. Let's not talk about the power of the throat chakra to create. And we have to be really careful what comes out of that. Okay. And then you say, well, gee, not only is the healing right here, right now, we came in lifetime after lifetime, whatever traumas and things that happen with that, but also we're carrying the DNA of our ancestors
Mhm.
and all the stuff that they've gone through. So healing is multifaceted. And what it is, we want to say that we are starting our healing journey. And each individual is unique. Their experiences, the wiring of their brain. And that's one thing we had talked about, that we're all here together, right? But each is so unique. Can you imagine in this multiverse, even though you're part of a collective, still you are unique to the divine.
Yes.
You're,
Very, very counterintuitive.
when you begin to understand this, and that's part of the healing.
Yeah.
Part of the healing's first being aware.
It's so interesting because every religion at its core, if you really listen to what they're saying, is that we are one, but we also have free will, independent of each other. It's such a duality. It's so not. That's why I think a lot of times, no matter what background you come from, this is and then once you go into deeper spiritual learning, maybe you start meditating, or maybe you are, go into deeply into your spiritual faith of whatever it might be. Um, you start to try to unwrap that. It's really hard.
Even Toth has said this.
Yeah.
Okay. Toth, who I love and is a mentor to me, um, Toth is the one that gave me, in an altered state, the Book of Earth. So whatever rose-colored glasses I had on at the time was knocked off to say this is what's going on. But of course, the truth shall set us free,
Yeah.
right? And that's part of the healing. So um, there's the many and the one, and that is said in the law of one. That is said in many esoteric and writings from various cultures, the many and the one. Okay, so I guess what a good example is our own physical body, right? Our physical body is made of organs, different organs, they have different functions, and also we have cells. And those stem cells, they start out and say, okay, you are a toe. Your function is a toe, which is different from the cell that's saying your lips. It is, and when you think about it, it is so intrinsic and so profound. Okay, but yet you are that one organism, and the Egyptians depict this, okay, in their temples. You see Nut, and Nut is going over the entire universe like a body within a body within a body within a body. So when you can get all of that aligned in a harmonic, balanced way, that is really healing. That is really the profound healing. And there are layers that we don't even know. So I had a profound healing when I went to Mount Shasta. And I thought I was healed from some trauma I had and forgiven and moving forward. And years, this is like 20 years later. And I went to Mount Shasta and I consciously working. I know we can't hold any grudges or any unforgiveness. So I've done that. But there was a part in my heart in the deepest chamber I was totally unaware of that got healed when I went to Mount Shasta.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's so much. So this is what I would tell everybody.
Yeah.
If you put forth the intention, I feel that everybody has a responsibility to go on that healing of themselves. Because if they start to heal themselves, they're not only healing themselves, they are contributing to the collective unconscious. They are contributing to their lineage.
Hmm.
They're contributing to the ancestors. They're contributing to the world when they say, I'm going to embark on my own healing, because you are also part of the collective and contributing to that.
It's
So
true.
that's one of the most powerful things somebody can do.
The more
Is
you heal yourself, the more you heal everybody else around you. It's
that's
so
right.
great. It's so cool.
And let's not talk about going back in time and helping
Yeah.
ancestors. And we are the ones that we're waiting for that patterns, negative ancestral patterns. You know, the granddaughter that's feeling a sense of abandonment because great grandma felt abandoned by her parents, and it's not a biological thing, but it's also an emotional thing. Okay, that travels through lineages. That's why they say, well, why can't you just get over it? No, Jesus even said it's 7 generations at least. So
Well, here's an
healing is a
incentive
huge
for
thing.
everybody to heal themselves. If you get, if the emotional and traumatic things are held in the body, you
Correct.
age faster.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to try to stay happy
That
and
listen,
young, heal it up, buddy, because then you get like that. That's
it is so worth it.
it's
You
true.
know,
It is actually true, though. Like,
yeah. And the
joking
healing
aside,
again, physical, mental,
yeah,
emotional, and everybody's healing path is different, because between the healer and the person, or the teacher and the person, there's an energetic exchange. That's why they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Or somebody will say, I had the most amazing healing from this person, not so much for the other person.
yeah,
And I had an experience I want to share. I asked the question, I said, well, there's all these different healing modalities. What works, what doesn't work? And what I was shown was a mirror that was broken into like 1,000 shards,
hmm,
right? The idea of what that was is that all of us are looking to bring those shards into wholeness. We're looking to come into wholeness. And each healer may have a particular shard that they specialize in. And so you have a feeling, say, I think I should go to that person. That healer may have that shard that they're good at that can bring in the wholeness. So again, it is also an individual
Yeah.
experience.
I will say that from an astrology standpoint, before I understood that, first of all, astrology is one of the older esoteric arts as far as that goes, and
Yes,
its purpose is actually to do a number of things. I think too often people focus on the idea that it's supposed to be somewhat predictive. I don't think of it that way anymore. I think of it more in the esoteric way, which is supposed to kind of show you as a reminder of what you came here to understand to
yes.
to ascend. If that's
Yeah,
if you
it's almost like
yeah,
on on higher levels,
yeah,
we put in a design,
yeah,
right? A design that's going to always what? Evolving the soul,
yeah,
always moving into its next evolution, into its next experience, what is to learn. And so, because we are so multifaceted, because we are multidimensional, some aspect of us says, okay, we're going to be born where we know the
yeah.
energy
Finally
is
get
going
this right. Yeah,
to impact
yeah.
this thing for these lessons to be learned.
Once I realized that was what it was so much easier to read correctly, and now when I read, it's just very
I just want to
easy to tell
take a
someone.
moment here, if I may. I
Yeah,
want to just say to everybody who's listening here, May is the most, and I've been around a lot of people and astrologers, and they're good in their own way.
yeah.
But I have to tell you, May is remarkable. I
Thank you.
want to tell you something that happened recently. Okay, so I had the good fortune for Thanksgiving, and so did May, with our dear friend Reverend Annie. Reverend Annie Ing is one of the ministers at the Cosmic Center. And so we were there for Thanksgiving. And when we were there, May said, I'll do an astrology chart for you. So I sat there. I'm like, okay, all right. So she's going into the astrology chart. And one of the things she said was, you're going to be very immersed in the technology. She says, you're going to be just immersed. Now, I'm a person that still has AOL. Okay, everybody, this is what you have to understand. Okay, I'm a baby boomer, different neural nets going in different ways. So, not millennial and not Gen Z. Okay, so it takes a moment for the baby boomers to get it all together, right? And so I was like, okay, well, here we are live streaming. Okay. I'm
This has been the year of technology for you, even without you. I've been out of the country for a lot of it. So like
It's just, I just want to say how on point that was, because it's not me saying, hey, pick me, I want to do. No, I'm like, struggling not to go. But it was a divine directive, which I got, by the way, from the ascended master, saying, touch the minds and hearts of people around the world, use the tools of Aquarius. And so here we are.
yeah, you had a
Here
big
we are.
year in
So I just want to say and honor you, May,
Thank you.
for just a minute. And then you also use the geometries that you see. Now, I have not experienced that with other astrologers,
That was a
but you
really
also
weird.
can read where you see the gematриas
Yeah.
in astrology, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really weird series of downloads that I got in trying to understand why the charts were showing me something so, like before I could, before I, as I was learning early on, it wouldn't happen. But then over the course of the last decade, but really escalating even in the last 5 years, I started to not just read the chart, but it would actually flat out tell me something very specific to say. And I was like, why is it telling me something to say? And then through the rabbit hole of meditation, plus learning more, plus all this stuff, I started to realize that what's actually happening is that you do have the planets are forming a sacred geometry and
Mhm.
shining on like it actually is the sacred geometry. The sacred geometry is one of the most creative and instructive things that is observable. I mean, sacred geometry even can explain what elements do. You know what I mean? All over science, sacred, they don't call it necessarily sacred geometry, but the shapes are the shapes, you know, whether it's the Merkaba or
Exactly. It's the angles, it's the gematria, and it's all connected to mathematics, and it's
yeah.
all connected to, you know, the whole multiverse. So yes,
And
that's very
yeah.
powerful.
And then there was a series of other things between you and Annie that I learned that actually it is true that that it is thought by many spiritual practices all across the earth, not even in the same country, that messages are contained within those geometries. And I was like,
Oh yes.
oh, now I understand what I'm seeing. I get it now. And so when people ask me, like, what is it that was the best book for you to learn astrology? I mean, yeah, I read a lot, just like you said, have the big stack of books behind me, but it was only until I realized that astrology is connected to all the other spiritual stuff and that I had to start learning the other spiritual stuff if I was ever going to crack and really understand astrology.
Right, because it's not just, it's an energetic and that intuitive part of you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's that you see the gematria, you get a download, you're making the connected dots because you're operating and there's other layer over here, probably going to quantum to something else, you know. But
It's
yeah,
very
I
weird.
just want
I'm
to
not
let
gonna lie.
everybody know how you are.
It's quite strange. It still feels quite odd to me now when I read because
Yeah.
like things like it just feels really weird. I don't know because I'm still getting used to what some of the things that are very obvious to you when you talk about things that you see in meditation. They're like
Right.
second nature to you at this point.
And you know, so this is the other thing too, in talking about the gematrias and these angles, and you know, people that really kind of know this, like mathematicians, and it could go into infinity and all of that. But I have seen, just to let you know, that you may see an ascended master, for
Wow.
example,
Yeah.
or an angelic being in a gematria form. That's how I saw the Divine Mother. I was in Sedona. She had asked to go there for a specific reason, and that was to heal the land. Beautiful, but goodness knows how much healing needs to be on the land around the world. So I did that in South America, and I find myself with Reverend Annie, okay, doing this in Sedona. And for me, okay, this is the other thing I want to say. Why should we be on our path of light? Well, I've always said as I get older, I get better, and that is absolutely manifesting. I was never a hiker before, but here I am, okay, in my golden age, if you want to say that. I consider myself ageless, but here I am hiking. The first time I did it, I thought I was going to die. Okay, I did. And
Reverend Annie is quite the hiker. Okay, she
yes,
thinks
she
she's
is.
a beginner. She is not a beginner. Do not
No,
believe
she
Reverend
isn't.
Annie when she says she's a beginner. Okay.
No, she's not. That's in an alternate universe. That's not
Yeah,
this
I don't
one.
know where she's a beginner. It's not this lifetime. It was.
That's for sure. But I remember I'm hiking up Cathedral Rock, and I was from the city. Okay, so anyway, and I felt so bad. There was a couple of things going to, because Sedona is that kind of place that is either going to be highly elevated or it can knock you down. This was the knock you down
Yeah.
part of Sedona. And at the time, I was dealing with Epstein Barr,
Oh,
and that's a whole journey that I went through with that. It's no longer part of my field. And I'm going to tell you about the Divine Mother that there was a point I felt so bad. Now, meanwhile, I'm wearing a poncho, right, that has the Guadalupe, the Divine Mother in the front and the back, because where we were in Sedona, we went to one place, I forget where it was. It was cold. I had to get a poncho. So I'm wearing the Mother Mary literally in the front and the back. I'm trying to get up here, and I saw a rock. And I actually kind of sat down and laid on the rock.
ooh.
And I told Annie, she'll tell you the story. She and her friend William, who were going up, I said, you guys go ahead. I'm just going to stay and die on this rock.
Yeah, I've been there with Reverend Annie.
Yeah. And in that moment, that's
We love you,
exactly
Annie.
how
If
I
you're
felt. But guess what? Mother Mary appears to me.
oh wow.
Yeah. That
Nice.
was a
Because you're
profound
born out. Yeah,
experience for
that's
me. And she said, this is what I learned. I tell everybody about the healing. Okay, listen up, because this is what Mother Mary told me. In my worst time of pain, I was a walking inflammation ball. Okay, just the most inflamed you could think of.
yeah.
Okay, I'm in Sedona, and Sedona is intense. It's like Epstein Barr was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Oh, no.
And that's how I felt. She told me,
Yeah.
she said, you're going to have to fight for the centropy. That's what she said.
Oh, wow.
So the entropy is like, okay, I'm just going to go down and I'm just going to, absorb into this rock. That's the end of it. And she said, you must fight for the entropy to pull yourself up. And, I said in the weakest voice, I will. Somehow, and this is why it's good to be part of a tribe. It was Annie and her friend William. They helped me to get to the top. I got to the top. I
Wow.
saw the full moon rising. It
Wow.
was a drum circle, and it was amazing. I was sore like anything, but that was the turning point for me because my trajectory could have gone one way. We have choices, and in your health and healing, you have choices too. This is important to know. Okay. And so what I decided to do is that there was a trajectory. I said, I'm not interested in that. I will fight for the entropy. I did. That seems like that's about maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't remember, but I'm not even close to that person. And so how this story got up is that before, when I was going like this to get up to a particular place, I was with my sticks. I do use my sticks. And I was sort of like bouncing up there now, way different than it was years ago. And when I got up there, no, this was a time when it took a struggle for me to get up there, but I did it for the Divine Mother. She came in a gematria, the most
Wow.
beautiful, amazing. It was blue and white. It was
Wow.
huge. I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, because it was her directive to do this. And it took the sacrifice. My health has never been better. I
Wow.
am strong.
So
I am
interesting.
doing things that I wasn't able to do 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Now, some of you guys have been to Sedona. If you have, write that in the comments. But for those of you that have not been to Sedona, it is one of the more spiritual places in America. Huge energies,
Vortexes
yeah,
there, a lot of
vortexes, yeah.
vortexes.
But so is Sarasota. So if you're watching this and you're in Florida, but you've never been to Sarasota, tell us a little bit about Sarasota because from time to time,
I know.
see, people might know Sedona, but people don't know Sarasota, which
I
is
know it's a
right.
secret. There's
Yeah,
a
it's like a
Stargate
secret.
here.
It's a
There's a,
sleeper place, but it definitely should start making your radar if you happen to not be watching from Florida, or if you're in Florida, you didn't know that about Sarasota. Tell us about
so,
it.
yes, Sarasota actually came on the radar, not so much me moving here, but aware of its spiritual significance. I guess how I moved here was spiritually motivated, whether I was aware of it or not. Okay, so I find myself here. And then I became aware of the fact Siesta Key,
Yeah.
okay, has the quartz crystal. So that's one of the things Siesta is known for, is the beautiful Siesta Key, but it's like a powder because it's quartz. Now, there's a friend of mine, her name is Leela, and she wrote a book, and it had to do with the huge quartz crystals that were found in Mexico. I can't think of the town right now, but you might recall this was a couple of years ago. They were opening a mine, and these huge selenite crystals,
Oh wow.
quartz crystals, were underneath. It isn't
I didn't even know that
It
was.
came to Sarasota
Yeah.
because it was in complete alignment with Siesta Key quartz crystal.
Oh wow.
I'm going to say something else. Okay. A lot of people find themselves over here in Florida in general, also Arkansas, but in Florida specifically, it's
There's a bunch
connected
of ley lines too.
to
So
Atlantis.
yeah.
Atlantis. Okay. And in fact, as you know, Reverend Annie and I went to Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas, because Arkansas holds the second largest deposits of quartz crystal
Yeah.
after Brazil. And there's a reason for that. And these ancient ley lines, these ancient crystalline grids that were part of the Atlantean civilization. And Thoth, good old Thoth, the Atlantean, is saying observe and see what's going on in this timeline we're in and the timeline of Atlantis. And it is us as a collective, which is important to heal ourselves, do what we need to do, heal the land, heal each other, so we can make the ascension collectively. Individually, yes, but also collectively with our beautiful Earth Mother. And so it's going to require us now to really tap. And how do we tap into those higher areas of ourselves? Well, one, what about like getting yourself healed? Let's start that. Let's start that. What about saying, okay, what's good for my body? Figure out what diet that is. What about being aware? What are they selling and what am I buying? Is that good for me? Does somebody just tell me to buy this because it's fortified with vitamins and but it's loaded with sugar like Captain Crunch? Okay, with the indoctrination when I was a kid. We have to become more discerning right now and say,
Yeah.
I feel this is good for me or not, and have the courage to walk our path of healing. So, your path of healing, if you, I will say that we have such a benevolent universe that if you say, you know what, I want to heal, and you really pray and you say in meditation, my intention, my goal, my prayer, my heart's dreaming, okay, is to heal. The universe will conspire to bring that forward and move you in a direction. The thing is, you can't dictate how it's going to happen.
Just
Okay.
have
Oh, wait a minute. I thought my arm would be fixed. No, it could be this other thing going on in your field, okay, since the trauma that you've forgotten when you're 4 years old that needs to be fixed for this to get fixed. It is so intricate because it's multidimensional. Then you may be carrying, like I said before, ancestral stuff. And when you heal that, guess what? You're healing your line. And I've done that for both sides of my family. I specifically did that because we're the ones to wake up to say, hey, you know what? This pattern that is not serving members of this family needs to stop, and it stops with me. We're the ones that we're waiting for. And so when we heal ourselves, you think it's just you? No, it ripples throughout the universe. I could tell you something a little wild. Do you want to hear it?
sure.
I was
Yeah.
up there with healing. And again, healing is multidimensional. So I saw a gentleman, a friend of mine, very good healer, very tapped in, very high. And in that process, I was having like this issue with my hip. And in the part, it might be something mechanical that could be fixed, but a lot of times it keeps on coming back, right? You fix something, it comes back. So, on an energetic level, okay, and this is where ancestors come in. And what he saw, and he had that ability, uh, he saw a young girl, maybe in the 13th or 14th century. She was very young, okay, but she was sort of like bound, like, she was like, I don't know what happened to her, but there was a level of suffering, okay? That's why we have to go past, present, future, all one, okay? That's a deprogram and a reprogram. That's the Akashic record. How does this happen? Because it's all one. And if you tap into one of it, this is somewhere would be perceived in my past, but it's currently going on in this young lady's reality. And she felt like stiff and bounded. And so she's going down a descendant line, which happened to me, okay, getting what they call the hungry ghost. I think in China they call them the hungry ghost, or these are like people like, I need some help, because there's many different planes. And so it turns out that whatever's going on there through the lineage manifested itself to me through my hip that was hurting me. The minute that beautiful soul was released from whatever was going on, and it's almost like, I want to say she was earthbound. She was stuck in some kind of like rigid thing and she was earthbound. She got released. And it's a beautiful thing, right? To know that somebody in my lineage who I don't even know got released and my hip got healed. Now, you
Yeah.
can't say this to everybody because they're like, I don't even understand it. But for those of you, okay, that understand that everything is integrated and connected, okay, where you may be having an issue in healing may have to do with the star regulus because we are stardust. We are all of this, and we're so much more into the little capsulated space reality we find ourselves in. And the minute you can move out of that and be comfortable with it, and that's where spiritual healing is able to do what other levels of healing are not able to do because they can't address this higher part that we're connected to, you
Yeah.
know?
I want to just quickly acknowledge this comment, Elkade Kosher, who wanted to go with us on these trips. Just so you know, the Cosmic Center does do at least one spiritual trip. Maybe one day we'll do more than that. But we've
Yes.
gone, just to tell, like, we've gone to a couple of places. I haven't had a chance yet to join you guys because it's always right when I'm teaching in the summers.
Right.
But so we went to Arkansas recently.
Yeah, that was Hot Springs, Arkansas. We've been to Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
We've been, of course, to Sedona more than once. I've been to Puma Punku in
Going to Morocco
Bolivia.
soon? Can we go?
Was that?
Going to Morocco soon? Should we preview the trip so people like know to
Yeah,
find us?
yeah, Puma Punku around the world.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're kind of thinking of, it's not substantiated yet. I know there's going to be another trip to Mount Shasta. That I do know.
Oh, that's cool.
But
I
there's
still want
also
to
the
go.
idea of going to Morocco
Yeah. Yeah.
and going
Go
to
to Morocco.
Morocco, the caves of Hercules, that sort of stuff. Again, connected to Atlantis, and just how Sarasota has a Stargate. That's really what Sarasota is famous for, that most people don't know that,
Yeah.
but is now becoming aware that Sarasota is a Stargate. And so there's going to be something pretty big with that, with Toth. I know that. I don't know when, but yeah, it's that's going to be right here in Sarasota.
There's a
But
lot of people that love the travels that we do. Like I feel like the path of a lot of healers is one of traveling. So
yes,
we're a bunch of gypsies at heart.
and let me tell you now, the the trips that we do are very purposeful.
Yeah.
So, like when we went to Sedona, one of the Sedona trips was a result of the Divine Mother asking us to come and heal the land. Okay, very specific. The reason why we went to Arkansas, okay, which was a divine directive from Toth, okay, was saying, I need for you to put a grid, an energetic grid, okay, connected to Atlantis. So we got the crystals, we said the prayers, we did the whole, so very specific stuff. But also we have a great time, let me tell you. So we
Yeah.
do our spiritual work, but then we have an awesome time. And so our trips that we do is for those who feel called to do it. It's amazing because you know who's orchestrating these trips? The ascended realms of light. So it goes with ease and grace, top shelf, no issues, wonderful experience. Everybody's gone on these trips, Egypt, Puma Punku, Peru, wherever we have gone, it has gone because it's overlighted by the ascended masters. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we do more of them, but I know we have to split everybody in two and then make them organized. Like, so if you wanna just keep in touch with the Cosmic Center,
Yes.
link tree in the bio. So you should definitely just
Oh, absolutely. And be
let
sure,
us
by the
know.
way, now I'm talking like this. Be sure to like,
Oh yeah, yeah, like
be
share,
sure to
comment.
subscribe and like and press that little bell.
Yeah, let us know that if you see Reverend Sharon in person, just let her know. Baba Sharon in person. I never know which one to call you because I hear people call you both. What is your favorite, or how do you feel about it?
I guess it's whatever timeline.
That's really true.
Well,
Some
uh,
people call you Reverend Sharon, and then some
well, a
people.
lot of people know me as Reverend Sharon Elizabeth. Okay, because I've tied in that Elizabeth from 50 years ago. because I was aware of the energies and I did that. So I go by Reverend Sharon Elizabeth. That's what most people know me as, Reverend Sharon Elizabeth. But I had a whole experience. Um, uh, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago now, 7 years, I'm not sure, altered state. And I was giving the spiritual name of Baba. So I always wanted to have, I always want to know what my spiritual name was. So I thought it was going to be like Shining Feather or, some kind of name like that. And it was Baba. I said, okay, okay. But my first name is Sharon,
Got it.
and Dr. Hertak, in the Hebrew tradition, they put the E for Sharon. So
Yeah.
it came out to be Baba Sharon. Yeah.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it took a moment for me to use it. I was kind of embarrassed and shy. People
Yeah.
say, "You shy?" No, yeah, absolutely. But I got a very clear message that if I didn't use it, I would lose it. And that's where you have to be
Yeah.
brave to be who you truly are.
Yeah. All
And then
important
when you do,
sometimes.
you inspire other people to be their authentic self, you
Well, we
know?
got to tell people what's going on at the center because there, as we enter the winter months of Florida, there's all these wonderful things that are happening. So tell
Oh,
us.
yes. Oh, yes. Well, first of all, we have the famous Dr. Moody.
Oh
He's
yeah, that's
currently
really
he
cool. You guys, you should check that
Dr.
out.
Raymond Moody. Now, for those of you who don't know Dr. Raymond Moody, okay, I can't even tell you how phenomenal his lectures are. This is his second lecture. He's currently doing it. It's both in person and online. Dr. Moody wrote the famous book, Life After Life. He's the one that coined near death experience. He is a really big deal. So the stuff that we take for granted now, NDEs and, past life and, coming back, he's the one that started it all. But
Wow.
he says he's not him because he is a doctor of philosophy, something I actually wanted to do, interestingly enough. But anyway, and he has studied Plato and Socrates and all of the Greeks, and he is only bringing back into the awareness of things that were done thousands of years ago, like the Gnostics, okay, saying not only did they have the oracle, they had the oracle of the dead. It was common practice. Listen to this,
Tell me a little bit about this. Go ahead.
common practice that people will go into this cave type thing, and they had, like, the special people there, purify yourself, go in, light a candle, say your prayer, and speak to grandma or grandpa or whoever it was. It was not really a big deal. They did it all the time. Guess what? You can create, and that's what he's teaching us, create the exact same dynamic in your own house. If you want to do it, you can create it, and you don't have to go through a medium. You can do it directly yourself.
Yeah,
So it would be very interesting if you're like, hey, I'd like to check it out. You could either come to the center in person,
which is more
or
fun. But if you
or
want to go online, it's fine too.
you could do it
No
online.
judgment, no judgment.
And the other great thing, Reverend Annie and I, for those who are really serious
Yeah.
about making the ascension in this lifetime, because many of us can. And if we choose to do it, we're bringing a whole bunch of other end of planet with us. And it's called the Ascension Manual. And that is also going to be in person and online. And that's going to start November 2nd. So, where you would go to the Cosmic Center website, which is ccosl.com, or if you Google, Cosmic Center Spiritual Light, it'll bring you right there.
It'll
You
be
go
in
to
the bio section as well of
oh,
this.
okay.
So definitely click if you're like,
That's right. Yeah.
find it there
And
too.
just go there to our website and go to the calendar of events, and you're going to see all that information there. So, a lot of things we do now is not only in person, but we also do it online, like what we're doing over
But
here.
it's
Can
so
we?
great when you come to the center. Okay, you're like indifferent. You just want people to have the knowledge. I'm like, it would be so cool. I'm in New York, by the way, most of the time, but
Yes, I know. I know. Isn't this? Well,
but
this
I'm
is the
still like,
age
I
of
love going to
Aquarius.
the center. It's so pretty and it's such great energy.
Oh, it is. It is. Now, let me say this: the technology is reflective of our consciousness and where we're going. Many of us are operating in the fifth dimension. Okay, our physical body, we're here, and many of us are walking two worlds, some of us three worlds at the same time. you know, and doing that balance. And so what I want to say is that um, we are now moving into the fifth dimension frequency, which in a thought, no longer are you bound by time or location. And so the technology now is reflecting that,
Yeah.
where we don't have to say, hey, we just have to meet at a point where we all can collaborate together, where time is no longer a barrier, nor is location. That's very, very exciting, you know? And I guess that's why the, the masters told me, get over it, embrace the technology and move it forward. We'll send May to help you out.
That's true. You guys don't know, but it's kind of an inside joke around my friends, and I've just embraced it now that I'm kind of like a spiritual FedEx delivery person
She
because
is.
everywhere I go, I meet like these really, I'll be in Vietnam, I'll meet the one Reiki master that's trying to create a spiritual community, and then I'll go like to Omaha in the middle of a finance lecture thing and meet the one yoga master that's there. And no matter where I go, it's like so weird. And they'll have a question, and for whatever reason, half the time the answer is, I should introduce you to my friends at the Cosmic Center.
There you go.
90% of the time, that is the
And
answer.
we do have a relationship with a beautiful lady named Daphne.
Yeah,
She's in Vietnam, and we made that connection. So it's
yeah.
we not only pray for the Gulf of Mexico, we pray for the Gulf of
So,
Tonkin as
yeah,
well.
it's
Yeah,
been a
which is
very fun life.
so.
um,
Do we have any questions from anybody? I'm seeing these chats over here.
I look through, we're getting mostly some really fun comments.
Oh, great!
Hadessa, I hope I'm saying her name wrong.
Yeah,
The
Hadassah. Uh-huh.
Hadassah has this really fun one. If you want to say a few words about the King of Solomon or the King Solomon's ring,
Oh,
things like
yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of where
Well,
I'll look it
King,
up.
yeah, Solomon, I guess that's in the Old Testament. And um,
The
that,
ring and the Ark
huh?
of the Covenant.
Was that?
Some of the missing items from the King Solomon's time. If you have any
Oh,
thoughts on that,
listen, we have just, this is the biggest puzzle piece. That's why the gnosis is important, because it is so confusing. In fact, Hadassah and I were having a conversation, about some of the names, okay, that are out there. Okay. And if you go into the history of what we call the names of God,
yeah,
right? It's like you see scholarship that's giving different evolutions as to how these names, is this a good name, is this a bad name? You know what, we don't know for sure. A lot of the energetic is confusion, right? Confusion, like this doesn't make sense, this is contradicting that. And that is why what I want to tell to everybody, we really have to start to trust our own higher guidance. I don't know for sure who's who, who's right, but I know what my intention is, right?
yeah.
My
You stay linked to
intention
that shit. You
is
have to stay linked to the light.
right. That's my intention, to the source that is love, benevolent, and light. Okay, to the most high God, if you will.
Best you can. Best you can. It's okay if you falter every now and then. Best you can.
But to try to anchor into that. Okay. And I don't know if it's tomato, tomato. I don't know if it's this, and I may be confused, but it doesn't stop me. At some point, the revelations will come. But I think the most important thing is one's intention, one's heart. Okay. Because that is the way into your next level, and how we're going to help this planet into its golden age is coming through the heart of compassion and unconditional love. So whether it's tomato or tomato, if it's right or left, up and down, we stay centered, holding the polarities in balance, and coming as best we can from the neutral observer, not getting caught up in the duality swings. And that was a message from the Divine Mother in 2010. Her words were, I need somebody to hold the polarities in balance. She said there would come a time when there would be extreme polarities, and those extreme polarities can create wars. And she said, we need, and ever since 2010, we've been doing that. We need to hold those polarities in balance. It's almost like it's like this.
Yeah.
But we need to anchor, like the antakarana, that tube that comes straight. We need to bring in that tube of light, or the Lewa Shekinah, the pillar of light that comes to anchor that pyramid, which will stabilize it. And even though we may look at the world and say, oh my gosh, but we're going to get back to how powerful we are. We have to just, the trappings are to pull you down, that your energy goes down. You have to just be aware. When I was feeling, my body was not feeling well. My body caught pneumonia some time ago, and the guidance came what to do. This time, hey, you're going to need to see a doctor and get some antibiotics. Okay, I did. But
That
in
was
the meanwhile, I'm taking Irish sea moss and other things I'm guided to do, right? But when my body was fighting this pathogen, I think I told you, this
yeah.
cloud came over me of depression. And I
Yeah.
said,
That was just
wow,
rough. Yeah.
yeah, a deep depression.
Yeah.
And because if you continue to work your spiritual muscle, okay, keeping that connection, acknowledging the higher parts of yourself, my higher self said in my head, you know what this is. This is not you. This is an opportunist because you're vulnerable at the moment. Don't engage. Let it pass. And I did. But sometimes, if you don't know, you may get involved and engaged. And then that's the entropy that the one Divine Mother was saying. You have to fight for the centropy, which is the pulling self up. And it's so worth it because once you choose to do it, the universe is going to support you,
Yeah.
which is beautiful.
You know what I do kind of want to show, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to show or not, but I feel like I should, just in case because the astrology for the next couple of months. I just want to show a couple of shapes that I'm seeing.
Yes, 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 yes. Please share that.
I was gonna consider doing it the next episode, but I kind of feel
No,
like
do it this one.
do it this way.
Right, everybody, right? Do it this one. We need to know.
So a couple of things that I'll just explain for folks that have never done anything with astrology is that the reason I feel compelled to talk about it right now is because we are actually, and have been for some time, going through some
Yes.
pretty extreme charts in this whole entire year. And maybe a different episode I'll talk about it in more detail, but the period from about COVID until now looks very specific to an astrologer like me, especially with sacred geometries, such that the last, especially from, call it September, October of last year until about June, May, really the end of May, middle of May, and then you got like June and July as a respite. But that
Mm-hmm.
whole period was an accelerated wake up and try to get to the point of being a light worker, like fix your vibration best you can. It was like this really extreme like wake up call for a lot of folks, and lots of things happened. And really, for anyone that was working with me, I was like, you got to hold the vibration, and here's what it looks like every. It was like really,
Yes.
and then you get about like 2 months, I want to call like May to June, to just kind of recharge and reflect on what just happened, into like end of July. But that first week of August got ugly again, because I think it almost looked like, okay, we're going to get a little complacent because now we're past it. Oh, no, we're not in August, right? And so some people, depending on what their personal chart was versus just what is the general chart in the
Yeah.
sky for a given location, some people really took it on the chin through the middle of September. And even though things are not perfect relative to what a lot of folks experienced in August, it feels a little bit more like a respite. It feels, for a lot of people, it feels like those video games on your phone where you have to like cook something and cook something else, and the next customer comes, you have to like, it just feels like one after the other, after the other, after the other, but you're
Yeah.
still holding the balls up in the air. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now,
Very much so.
very much so. However, here's what's about to come. But the message I really want to give, because, and it is that this is going to be true all over the world. It's just, where exactly is the energy, and where exactly will you take the energy is personal. But overall, this energy exists. And so the message, if I was to like sum up, what is the message? The message is, this next period, we really, really, really are going to be tested. we're going to want to hold that higher heart of light, that higher vibration, that part of us that is so beautiful and powerful that we can create, and then we can help others not be in the bad place, so to speak. We all know that a smile is contagious. Baba Sharon Jerome talks about that all the time. I'm mixing the two. Sometimes I don't know what to call you because I mix the two together because I
Hey, you. Go ahead.
I'm going to pick one instead of doing both, which I sometimes do with you.
Baba is real easy.
Baba is what I'm going to do. Okay. So what I would say is that you got to hold it. And the reason you have to hold it is that there's a whole series of geometries that are made in the sky that I think a lot of astrologers just don't talk about. In a lot of ways, I feel like given these geometries, some people are really in the weeds. So I just want to show you a couple of them so you can see what I mean. And I might have to do this in a kind of a funky way. I'm going to do entire screen. Yeah, I might have to do it this way. Let me see if this works because I haven't done it this way before. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Sorry, guys. I'll share that for a second and move this to, let's see. Yeah, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna have to do it a little bit funky. Okay, I'm gonna do it really fast. Here. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's not moving. Okay, let me try this a different way. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Stop share.
It's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. And hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody here. Catherine and let's see, the two Catherines. Hey, guys.
Okay, so wait, this is actually where we land. Okay. Hold on. Sorry, stop share. Okay, the first one that I want to show, I think is this one. Yeah. So this chart, nope, that's the last one I want to show. All right. Wow. I'll get better at this.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to say hello to everybody. Hi, Laura. Okay. And I saw Tim here too. Hi, Tim. And Richard. Hi, Richard. Great to have you guys here.
Why does it keep going to this one? It's so weird.
Mercury's not in retrograde. I know.
No. I think I'm in retrograde. Wow, it really just keeps going to the same chart. That's so weird.
So it's not sticking? Is that it?
No, it's not letting me switch around the charts. Hold on, I'll get one of them. All right.
Okay,
so now it's this one. Hold on. All right. This is the first. Let me see. I'm going to do it this way. I have an idea. Okay, let's see if this comes up correctly. Okay, so this current chart, let me see, is the chart that is where we're at right now on the East Coast. Now, I'm in New York, so I've done it for New York. So it really is still more or less this even for Sarasota. So basically, these will be just slightly to the right, closer to the 8th house. What is this chart? This chart is actually fairly intense already if it wasn't that I was seeing even crazier stuff for later parts of the year. So this chart already has the setup for everyone to really start to understand where it is that they are needing to expand, learn, or otherwise grow. Okay. And so that's being driven, weirdly enough, this is how crazy the astrology is for the entire world. There's a whole period of reflection that people are going through, very supported reflection that relates to what it is you heard that you now don't necessarily trust. So you want to just double check all of that with your own spiritual knowing. This is Pisces. Okay. So we're going through this period, but then what's crazy is that we then start to make this shape in the sky. And this shape people are reading in all kinds of ways, one at a time. But when you read it as a composite, this shape is very clearly a pentagon, which means that it's forming a 5-point star with this other, T-square there. Pentagons are actually a fairly important sacred geometry. Okay, they're not kind of a sacred geometry. They have extra meaning. Let me do it this way so we can be on there too. They have a lot of extra meaning because in sacred geometry, a 5-point star has extra power to evolve you as a person. Now, This is all eighth house evolution. So because you could see this ridiculous amount of stars for folks on the East Coast, it's going to be different if you're in a different location, but East Coast folks mostly are going to have this eighth house stellium going on. And essentially it's very supported, but it is going to make you really start to ask questions, dig deep, try to understand what's going on in the world, because you're going to sense like that intuition is just going to kind of come out. And so it makes sense to me that in the next few months, if you just get that intuition and play that thing that you already know, if you're getting tighter and more evolved and more knowledgeable about whatever's going on spiritually for you, it will come as this beautiful additional thing to help guide you through this period. Okay. So that's the first thing I'm seeing. But then that pentagon, what makes it an intriguing time is that we had a pentagon, we had a 5-point star during August. And depending on when your birthday was, for some folks, it slammed them in early August. And for some folks, it slammed them in mid all the way to September, August. Okay. And so this pentagram is, if you know what that feels like, realize that you're going to have this shape just reappear for like almost 6 weeks. Okay. It's not there to make you a miserable human being and torment you. It's actually there to force you to understand and remind you what you came here for. So the best thing you can do is try to understand that, even through the stress, even through the torment. So it's really important. And I really wanted to share that. Now, just to give you a sense for how crazy it gets, let me see if this works. Yes, this becomes November 15th. And it may be hard for you guys to recognize this, but if you are seeing a hexagon or a 6-point star of David, I am seeing it too. And even though there's a gap here, that's actually a misrepresentation, because what it's trying to show is there are actually 4 planets in a stellium at the tip of a star of David. Okay, so it's like very, very intense energy. So we go from like the beginning of the month that looks like a pentagram to like a star of David. Like I say. So this is why, like, for me, when I finally got a chance out of my own August craziness to finally take a look, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to call every light worker friend I have and just make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into for the next 2 months. So no matter where you are in the world, this is happening. And part of it, the reason that it's lasting for so long, is the nature of how many planets are one back right up to the other, moving around through the chart. Okay. And so this is what's happening in November. It doesn't really let go. I mean, all that happens is you go from that star of David back to a pentagram December 1st. So I'm doing November 15th, December 1st. Okay.
So it goes back to a pentagram again?
Pentagram again, right? And now you have, then it doesn't really kind of let up. Okay. And like when I say it doesn't let up, let me see if I have the actual chart. Ooh, I didn't bring the chart. It doesn't let up until Christmas. But the crazy thing that happens between December 1st and about December 22nd, I'll stop sharing. The only thing that happens is before it can get completely out of this whole period, it forms 2 yods or yods, depending on how you pronounce
yods. Yeah.
Okay? And that basically means you go through this crazy churner of a period of evolution, plus the Star of David, back to the period of evolution. And then you have a yod, which means you actually know what you're supposed to do. Okay. So it's like really intense. And that intensity, the way that so that I don't have to try to find the charts, that the way that intensity then alleviates itself across the entire world, by the way, is that it puts everybody from the period of like about the 22nd of December until basically through the month of January, depending on when your birthday is. It could be mid-January, it could be late January. It puts you into this state of reflection and cleanup. Okay, because you just had all this stuff and you're just like understanding now all this. Hopefully, if you're awake and you know you've got good people around you and you're taking it with kind spirit and stuff like that, and trying to take the lessons, you come out of it on the other side as like, okay, I got to think about this. I'm going to use whatever this respite is post Christmas or whatever's going on to see what does that imply for the life I'm trying to create for myself and also for what is my spiritual journey on this earth. And then it finally, February, I always joke, I've been joking with a lot of my light workers. I'm like, listen, if you can't celebrate whatever is your favorite December holiday, just tell people you're celebrating Chinese New Year's or Lunar New Year. That's, I mean, this pattern, the last time I saw this series of patterns, but it was a totally different series of patterns. It was that November, December, January, February, March period, but into May, and it really didn't let up until May because the cleanup during August was so significant for people.
Was from all the debris.
It's like the debris of it, because like March for a lot of people, especially given the ridiculous stellium of all the planets coming together, March of this last year was so intense. It took until May to clean it all up.
Yeah.
Like all the follow-up, all of the things you couldn't get to because it was just okay. And so the whole world is going through this. So for those that are just like, oh my gosh, I've already had such, just hold on, do the best you can. Don't be so hard on yourself. And in all of the moments of frustration, this is a general message, but that is true for everybody. Just try to be kind to yourself best you can. When you're frustrated, realize that God, the spirit, the source, he sends messages all different types of ways, sometimes through frustration. Look for what is trying to be shown to you versus being really upset and intense about it. And then also know that that is the time horizon. Okay. So if you just hold on through the 22nd of December, it starts to become reflective. So it doesn't necessarily, it does lighten up. Okay. If we're honest, the actual physical things that you're trying to like balance, like it does lighten up, but it puts you in this really retrospective move. And other people, by the way, also are going through this intensity. So try to do the best you can by others. And also realize that they're going to go into this crazy retrospective period as well. So, plan accordingly for holidays that people may be like so shell shocked they don't show up. You just want to be, you know what I mean? Like some people would be great because they'll know that the right thing to do, the healing thing to do is go find family and people that they love and can be them original selves with.
Right. And I wanted to mention too some spiritual tools.
Oh, that's so important. Yes, that's a good idea.
Important. So one of the go-to spiritual tools, we have to remember the sacred breath. We really do.
Oh yeah.
And because when you get intense or there's like this thing to get irritated or there's a challenge coming your way and you can begin, what do you feel? You feel the adrenaline beginning to pumping through your body. Your heart starts to go faster. You begin to tense up. Okay. You shallow breathe. You have to intercept that consciously. Okay. And stop it and start to breathe deeply. Because once you start to use the sacred breath, it's going to stop the adrenaline from moving into there's a real physiological thing, because if that's happening, then you lose it altogether. You intercept that by the sacred breath. You just take, I remember seeing a lady, she was, it was at a like spiritual show, and she was so like upset and whatever was going on in her life that she could not breathe. She was breathing so shallow. And I just said, you know what? It's just the only thing, the healing was breathe. Breathe. And just to fill the lungs in, because it was up here. It was this kind of breathing. And that tends to happen when we begin to get upset or, we're challenged, because our physiology is made to either fight or flight. So it's a practical thing, but it's also a spiritual thing to intercept that. Yeah, there are things, but then it's so beautiful to know with May, that you're going to get on the other side of this.
You are.
And just remember, you have that higher part of yourself that even in the midst of chaos, okay, that's there. You can choose and do your best to walk with ease and grace, and I find a lot of times for me, what helps is that neutral observer, staying there, not so much engaging into this and that. You're aware of it, but choosing not to participate in the polarity swings. and coming from this point as best you can, and use the breath. But wow, yeah, that's
It could be really exciting though. It could be really fun if we
it
go
sounds
right there.
transformational.
It could be really, yeah. I mean, that's how I'm reading it too. Transformational, but you know what? Sometimes transformation can feel very awkward. It's kind of like it kind of looks like we're getting a big like if there was an obstacle course and we've been training for it. Do you know what I mean? Like it could either be really fun, or if we just fall on our chin, it can really suck. We just gotta get back up.
I want to share something else, just little tidbits along the way. When I have been challenged, or the great fear, FEAR, starts to come in, okay, is that I got this from that book, The Celestine Prophecy, long time ago. That was a book, a spiritual book. But out of that whole book, one of the things it said was like, if you're looking at something that's fearful, right? You would say, well, let me look at it as an adventure. So here, forewarned is forearmed. You're not sure how this is going to happen. You can choose to say, I'm going to experience this as an adventure. I know I'm going to be able to move forward. I know I'm going to get on the other side of it. So if we just talked about going on vacations or traveling. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You go to someplace foreign, you have no idea. What do you perceive it as? It's an adventure. So I have known that sort of shifted the
About to go on a
energy.
big global adventure.
Yes, a global adventure. A global adventure. And we'll just be scribes. We'll just write it all down. Yeah. But I appreciate that, May, because, forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah.
And if you know better, you do better, right? You're like, okay.
That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the earth, we're all aware there's big
It's
things
crazy.
happening on the planet at this time. That's why we chose to be here at this
That's
time.
right. That's
you know?
right. Crazy
Right.
times offer crazy opportunities, right?
That's right. In the midst of difficulty lies opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Got to keep that smile. Try to remember that we
Keep the
chose.
vibe high.
Okay, well,
And
we actually have already been going. I don't see a ton of other new comments. We've been going for
okay.
almost 2 hours, so we should just close up. Is there anything else that we forgot to tell the people? Definitely visit the Cosmic Center website. There's tons of great stuff. We didn't talk about the mind, body, spirit thing, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yes,
You guys,
that's going to be on November 22nd. We have a Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo.
yes,
Yes, so that's
that'll
going to
be
be
really
happening.
fun.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Hi, Alka. Yes, I want to say hello to everybody that came here. Really appreciate you coming. This is the first, at least for the Cosmic Center for me, live cast. So being that is my astrological dynamic that I'm going to be involved in technology, there will be many, many more of this too. It's going to be very exciting, and really appreciate everybody who participated with us. It's just really awesome. Okay. And go check out May. I'm telling you, she's the one that predicted that I was going to be involved in it, and she's absolutely correct. I just want to personally thank her too for giving us a heads up. What's going on. Forewarned is forearmed. And not only are you doing it for yourself, don't forget that you're an example for others. So if you can stay anchored, okay, in peace through the storm, you can help others to do the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's the point. That's
yes. Hi, Vonda.
Hey, Vonda. All right, we're gonna close it for now. See you guys later, and till next time. Bye.
Namaste. See you next time.